and welcome back to my channel. This is our year to shine, and we are continuing our talk of Christine Arylo's book Madly in Love with Me during our February 2021 book exploration together and having our month of love. I hope your month of love has been going well. It's coming to a close soon. In fact, today when it was snowing near where I live, I was thinking, hey, it's almost March. You know, we're getting closer to spring. So in Christine's book, we've been talking about the branches of the self-love tree. So these are all the little elements that encompass self-love. So far we've talked about self-esteem, self-trust, empowerment, and self-pleasure. Okay, so we have not yet talked about self-forgiveness. We did talk about self-honesty as well, and self-care. So we have not yet talked about self-acceptance or self-expression or self-forgiveness and compassion. I'm going to start with self-acceptance and see if it becomes a really long video, then I will split it up. But my goal originally was to combine my two hardest branches to try to make it go by quicker, but I don't know, we'll see, because both of the chapters are pretty meaty. So what do you think self-acceptance is? It seems pretty straightforward, right? Christine explains that it's about really liking yourself and accepting yourself, even though you know you're not perfect. So it's not having this measure of perfection. It's actually getting rid of that entire thought of comparison, like not having this bar to measure yourself by. So it's embracing the imperfections and being okay with that and knowing that you're the only one like you and accepting what is. Remember we talked about the Serenity Prayer last year? She has that in this chapter too. You know, grant me the wisdom to accept the things, or the serenity to accept the things that I can change, and the wisdom. Okay, I'm going to read it because I say it wrong every time. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change about myself, the courage to change the things I can change about myself, and the wisdom to know the difference. So she's put she's changed it a little bit too in terms of putting it towards this self-acceptance and things about ourselves. So she's paraphrased it a bit too. But again, it's about knowing the difference and being okay with what is. So how do you think your self-love pulse check is on this one? Is this one that you struggle with as well? Like when I think about myself and I think about, do I like myself? I think, yeah, I like myself. You know, we did the list of the personality things that we loved about ourselves, and then the body things that we loved about ourselves. And when I think about my personality, or like, I think I'm pretty likable. I spend a lot of time alone, so I like my company, I guess. So I like myself. But the real rub for me in the self-acceptance is just that I'm not okay with a lot of things. And there are a lot of things that I know I can't change. And so to me, what is difficult for me with this one is that I can't come to peace with the fact that I can't change some of the things, because it's core beliefs that I have about myself that some of these things make me unlovable or undesirable or just way too complicated. So that's the tough part for me, but I'm here with you and I'm working on it, okay? And Christine does not try to dismiss that there are things that she uses the word hate, you know, and it seems really strong, but when she's going into the examples of the way that we treat ourselves and the way we talk to ourselves, it really is. It's really bad. It's hatred. It really is. So she doesn't shy away from that. She has a few exercises about, like, even journaling about what is it, like, what are the things that are stopping me from liking myself? Like, and what is it that I really hate about myself? So that's why this might be a very triggering chapter for you if those things are difficult to sit with. So just take this one gently if it's also difficult for you. So then she has a daring act of love. Like, for instance, she mentioned cellulite. So say you hate your cellulite, you hate your thighs, and every day you're talking to them in the mirror and you're like, I hate you, you're disgusting. Like, I mean, just horrible things. You're supposed to, for 30 days, give that part of your body that you have been hating this whole time, give it some love. So do you think you could do that? I mean, it's similar to what we've been doing in the mirror with saying, I love you, Carolyn, insert your name. So it's actually shining a light, and here we are, it's our year to shine, shining a light on something that you outright hate about yourself and trying to give that some love for 30 days. I mean, that would be a very daring challenge. It's a daring act of love, but it would be a challenge, I'm sure. So where do you lack self-acceptance? That's really what we're getting to the bottom. And she also says, when you have this lack of ease about yourself, this is a dis-ease. It brings us feelings of sadness and loneliness, and it stems from some of the most harmful forms of this self-hate. Yeah. The word hate may feel strong, like she says, but make no mistake, when you choose to judge, reject, or dislike, or become disgusted by any piece or place in yourself, then you are in fact hating yourself. And are you ready? And you already know that it isn't good to direct energy of hate to anyone or anything. This includes yourself. So what you direct at yourself is what you will attract in return. Which, again, I believe in the law of attraction. And I probably hate myself in a lot of ways. But I don't feel like I'm attracting hate into my life. I might be attracting isolation because I stick to myself, but I hope people don't hate me as well. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that? You think if you hate things about yourself that people are going to hate them too? I mean, I suppose if you hate, like say go back to the cellulite. If you hate that you have cellulite, then I suppose you're going to be hyper aware of anything that has to do with that. So maybe you would attract more of an attention to that hatred. So it could be like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like, you're changing in the locker room and then, I don't know, so nobody would say anything to you about it. I don't know, I'm thinking about like you're at a dress fitting or something and then like the woman measuring you makes some sort of comment about the circumference of your thighs or whatever, and you're already like hating that part of your body, so it just like exacerbates it. I don't know. I'm skipping some of these things because I get really, really, like I get almost angry. I'm not going to let this turn into the rant that I said that some of the other videos I tried to do on these topics became. But I think it's very hard to do some of the things that she's telling us. Like turning a statement of, like she has an exercise in here where you're supposed to make a card deck with all the negative things that you're saying on one side of the card. And actually it might be in the self-acceptance chapter because I'm not seeing it here, but so she has an example of the negative thing is like, I'm too old, I'm not pretty enough, I'm fat, nobody wants me, I'm worthless. I mean, there's all these horrible statements. And then on the other side of the card, you're supposed to turn it around. And I mean, it just, when I read it, it infuriates me because the statement on the other side of the card is the polar opposite of it. It's like, you're beautiful. I mean, anybody would be lucky to be with you. I mean, all this stuff. And it's like, you can't get there from, like, if you really feel, like, if you're in this self-hatred and all those statements that she listed out on the one example, those are serious self-hatred statements. So to be able to go from that to, like, saying that you're beautiful, I mean, I guess you could write down the things that you would want to believe, but there's too much of a difference, and it's about that, like, getting up to speed. You have to almost, like, reach for the closest, the thing that feels the closest. So maybe it's like using your friends or your family, like, well, my friends and my family enjoy my company, so I must be nice to be with, or something. I don't know. You cannot just go from, like, you're the elephant man to saying on the other side of the card that you're beautiful. So that's where I think that some of these things are, like, if you're really, really damaged, actually, I think that was one of the statements, and I do consider myself damaged. If you're really damaged, you can't expect to just flip a switch and be, like, saying you're beautiful and that you love yourself the next day. This is a major process. So be gentle with yourself and don't get angry like I'm getting angry right now. Okay, back to the book. All right, yeah, that must be in the self-acceptance, or sorry, in the self-forgiveness. We are in the self-acceptance chapter. We must be in the self-forgiveness one. So what about you has been hard to love? So that is a me moment question. And I encourage you to read these on 98 and 99. And then also, this is kind of neat. She has a me art project where you're going to make a love mirror. And again, you're making one side of the mirror is going to be the dislike and disgust mirror. So I like that she doesn't try to just shove the difficulties under the rug. She actually has you acknowledge the difficulties. And, you know, the mirror of dislike and distrust says, I feel bad about myself and I hate what I see. And she lets you just go to town with, like, a rant. You know, I hate my body. I hate that I'm not more blank. I hate that I am blank. I hate my thighs have cellulite. I hate my stomach isn't flat. I hate my boobs. I mean, she has this whole list of things. And then using the words hate and my together and the words hate and I am together, it is an essential part of this, because by looking in this mirror, you see how you've connected the energy of hate to your very being. So give yourself permission to go into these hard feelings and tap into these hidden dislikes and feelings of disgust. Keep writing until you can't think of anything else that you hate. Again, if you're not emotionally able to do this, then you may not be ready for this. I can't. It's too triggering for me, and I can't focus on the negative things because it's too difficult, and I don't even want to go on when I get to the end of the list. So. Okay, so then you're going to get the big uglies into the light. You're not finished with this mirror of disgust and dislike. We've got to get as many of the uglies out into the light as we can so that we can bring them and you back into alignment with love, with unconditional acceptance. Your next step is to look at each of the I hate statements and write out the words that actually run through your mind, heart, and body every time you feel this hate for yourself. So again, it's a somatic exercise here where we're connecting our emotions, our feelings, and everything to these thoughts that we're having. Don't shy away from the brutal language that you secretly throw at yourself all the time. And don't worry, like I said, we aren't going to leave you there. We will transform this and you into love. So she has you going, you know, the statements are really hard to read. She gives examples. Then you're going to make a mirror of love. So it says, I accept myself unconditionally. I affectionately appreciate, acknowledge, and adore myself, and I love what I see. Again, this is very much like the polar opposite situation that I was talking about just a minute ago. But I wish you well on it, and I hope it works for you. I'm not there yet. Now go back to each of those statements I've discussed and create a mirror for yourself that reflects love. Do this by turning each of the statements into love-powered statements. Your mission is to transform the energy of hate into love for every piece of the place within yourself that you found hard to love, by writing out a statement or set of statements that reflect self-acceptance in the fantastical form of appreciation, adoration, acknowledgement, and affection. Use these statement starters, I love, statements until you have successfully transformed everything you write into the other mirror. So, like if you said, I hate my cellulite, you'd be saying, I hate you, cellulite. So then you're supposed to destroy the dislike and distrust mirror. It's funny because remember there was another thing where we wrote stuff down and we ripped it up and it was like, I refuse to believe this anymore. She's very much on the like see it on paper or do a project with it and then rip it up. So I can see how that would be powerful. So you're going to be ripping it up. Since you won't be hating yourself anymore, you don't need this old mirror. Okay. Now your love mirror is a different story. Put this love mirror in a place where you can see it often so that you can get to easily, with somewhere you can get to easily when you need a reflection of how beautiful you are. Visit the mirror whenever you need a dose of appreciation, acknowledgement, adoration, or affection. But first, be sure to engage in, okay, there's a daring act of love. Okay, one thing I want to say is, I know that you should be able to get this love for yourself from within, but if you're not able to do that, you may ask for help from people in your life. This was an exercise I was given a while back to ask everybody in my life like what qualities I brought to the table. Like what did they feel when I came in the room? What were my strengths and things like that? One of you mentioned that you had to come up with your strengths recently. So maybe if you are in a place where you can't see these things, like she makes it sound so easy, like you're just going to make this mirror and change I hate myself into I love myself. Maybe you need help. So maybe it's a therapist, or maybe it's a good friend or your family, and you ask a whole bunch of people these things. And it's not hard for other people to tell you these things. I know one of you out there that commented, who I know personally, and said that you were having trouble coming up with the things that you like, and you didn't even think you could come up with 10. And like I wrote you last year, like, I don't know, 25, 30 things that I really like about you. So it's easy for people that know you and people that actually don't have these hatred feelings towards you. So that's just my own insertion there, because that might be the first step. Like you might not be able to come up with some of these things and be able to actually say them, but if they come from other people, and again, I know this is madly in love with me, but that's just like getting there. I just wanted to share that. So this daring act of love she says we have to do is make love with yourself. I haven't read this one. I don't know what it is. After you finish making your mirror of love, stop, stand up, and get ready to ooze good love for yourself. You deserve it. Hold your mirror of love in front of you with one hand, or post it on the wall where you can read it as you go. Say your love statements to yourself one by one out loud. Yes, out loud. If you have a physical, full-length mirror that you can do this in front of, all the better, but it's not necessary. Okay? After you've read them all, each statement about the unique and beautiful human you are, then put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and imagine yourself this way. Or if you're in front of the mirror, look into your eyes. Again, feel the words permeate you, and this time go straight into your heart and soul. Yet let your little girl self and big girl self feel you accept them just as you are. Yeah, remember I said about if you were looking at a picture of yourself when you were younger, or thinking about your own child, how you would never talk to them with such hatred and malice, you know? So maybe it's, if you think about that younger version of yourself that you know is just like innocent and is definitely coming from love and joy, that might be easier as well too. She does talk to us about a woman who overcame hating her cellulite. And I told you about overcoming actually we're at the end here. Overcoming the one that is the hardest one for you to love. Okay. I think I can do the other one really quickly. I really want to get these 2 branches done. So I'm going to go into the self-compassion and self-forgiveness. All right. And can you see why these 2 might be the hardest? Like if you're like me, because say cellulite is your thing, and you don't have any compassion for yourself that you have cellulite, then it is going to make self-acceptance a lot harder too. Yeah. I mean, there's so much more to self-acceptance than, I mean, there's probably millions of books about self-acceptance, but accepting yourself. There's so much more. That was just kind of touching the surface of it, and it seemed to be very simplified, and maybe that works for you. For me, it just, I don't feel like it's that easy. So that's where my anger comes from. Okay, so self-compassion and self-forgiveness. This is your choice to open your heart and be loving witness to yourself without judgment. And that was another thing about self-acceptance too. I didn't read the definition, but she did say that you were not going to be judging yourself at all. Yeah. Understanding, forgiving, transforming your imperfections. Yeah, so these are very intertwined, because the other one was also about embracing your imperfections. So we talked about this briefly. I said something about the inner mean girl. Yeah. So that's Sarah Ban Breathnach in Simple Abundance had talked to us about the alter ego, or the ego's evil twin. Yeah. It was it was this other side. The ego was the evil twin of the authentic self, I should say. So the ego and this inner mean girl are the ones that have the really mean voice. They're the ones that, I mean, this probably should have come, well, I don't know. Again, it's so intertwined with the acceptance one, because when you were saying all those things into that mirror of disgust, that's the inner mean girl coming out. Yeah. The silent but powerful words. And they're big fat lies. That's what Christine says. They make you hurt and sting, just the way you did when you were back in 5th grade or high school. When your inner mean girl rants, it feels very personal, and it is. She's you beating you up. Yes, as insane as it is, you beat yourself up emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and sometimes even physically. We all do. Yeah, and the self-abuse is so rampant, she says, unfortunately, in today's world. These days, inner mean girls start stealing self-compassion from girls early, much too early. We've seen this in girls as young as 6 and 7. Left unattended and unreformed, an inner mean girl can fill a sweet heart with self-hate and self-doubt for decades. We may have learned how to be magnificent multitasking machines, professional doers, and confident achievers, but we have no idea how to give ourselves a break. Yeah. Why do we find it so much easier to choose self-criticism over self-compassion? Well, first of all, neither of the handbooks that we've gotten in the past have, we didn't learn this whole self-compassion thing. We learned compassion for others, of course. Yeah. But again, we weren't really taught that it's, that statement where I said, you're only human. Like, we didn't really hear that when we were growing up. Yeah. We have to make a shift from self-criticism, or it'll just continue to be second nature for us. You know this to be true. Today, if you're honest about the self-talk running through your mind, you would see that almost instinctively you criticize yourself when you struggle or fail, even though you're instinctively compassionate with others you witness in pain. But why give yourself such a hard time and give others the love? That's a good point. Where it's like, why can you have that for other people but not for yourself? The good news is that second nature isn't the same as natural. Second nature denotes, of course, that something came before it. So your first nature, compassion, which is your first nature, you were born to be instinctively compassionate. Yeah. The question is, how far from your first nature are you operating today? I bet a lot of us are really, really far away from that. So there's a me moment about figuring out when you deserve self-compassion. And it's probably way more than you're giving it. Yeah. And there is also a daring act of love about accepting and expecting compassion unconditionally. I encourage you to read those on 138 and 139. Also, there's a whole discussion in here about perfectionism, and we did talk a lot about that during our Simple Abundance year. That can be really the thief of happiness. If you are just only going to accept perfection, it's going to be a difficult life. What if you chose to expect that over the course of your life, again and again, you would fail, falter, and be imperfect? What if you changed your mind and recognized that for the rest of your life, you'll always be learning, just like a toddler learned to walk? And what if while you learned, you were there alongside yourself, like a parent alongside his or her child learning to ride a bike? You can do it. Take your time. You're doing the best you can, and that's enough. You will find it a lot easier to be compassionate with yourself for both the small and big ways you struggle and the big ways that you fail, too. You will find it more natural to offer yourself forgiveness whenever you need it without needing to explain yourself or beg for it. Yeah. You, more than anyone, are counting on you to be there with open arms, offering compassion and forgiveness without condition. And then another me moment of exploring on 142 and 143 when you're forgetting compassion and forgiveness for yourself. I'm sure that's a lot of the time. So remember last year we also talked about mothering yourself. There's a daring act of love about smother and mother yourself with compassion. Another one to look at. So also she's big on the compassion. She's big on the flashcards. And this is the one here where I said that there were two versions of the same card. No one wants you, you're not pretty enough, you're too old, you're damaged goods. Yeah. And then the other one is people love you, you're beautiful, you're special and kind, and any person would be lucky to have you in her life. So that's making that deck. It's not very different than the dislike mirror and then the love mirror. Again, it's how easily you can go from one extreme to the other. Be gentle with yourself and choose self-forgiveness. Just as learning to be compassionate to yourself about the present, you also need to clean up your self-judgments about the past. This is a kind of a cleanup job, she says. It can be pretty heavy duty. It calls for superpower of self-forgiveness. When you apply love in the form of forgiveness for yourself and from yourself to all disappointments, hurts, and times you felt let down by yourself, you clear the space for big healing to take place. Again, this would be something to do with the help of a professional in some cases. It's time to pull out of the self-judgments you've been stacking up for years in your closet. Yeah. Write a love letter full of forgiveness to yourself and deliver it. So that's similar to what I always do for Valentine's Day, where I write a love letter from my authentic self. But this is the one where you're actually forgiving yourself for things. Read that one on 152 and 153. And we made it. This is the mantra for self-compassion and self-forgiveness. I've always done the best I can based on what I knew. I love and forgive myself. The Ho'oponopono forgiveness ceremony that I talked about last month when we were reading the Enough book might be something that could help you with that forgiveness one as well. And when you forgive others, it's also powerful as well. Okay, so thank you for bearing with me. How did I do? Oh, it's about a half an hour. But they're done. And now I think we only have 1 or 2 branches left, and I didn't totally do a rant on this one, so I consider it a success. Let me know your thoughts. I know this is a really hard one. I would definitely recommend taking some time with this, using the book, going slowly through the exercises. I have been grabbing it and with my journal, at least a couple nights a week and doing some of these questions. I have been negligent about these 2 chapters that I just went through quickly. I need to shine a light on them, I realize. But we're all doing our best, and we shine in some areas more than others. Thank you for shining along with me, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.